So over the last few decades, money, capital, has gone completely global. We're talking about money zipping across borders at lightning speed. And the big promise, right? The idea was simple. Rich countries would invest in developing ones, everyone gets richer, and everybody wins. But that's not exactly how the story played out. In fact, for a lot of places, it was a disaster. So we're going to unpack exactly why.
And that right there, that's the big puzzle, isn't it? We were told global money would make everyone richer, so why did it end up causing so many economies to just collapse? The theory made perfect sense on paper. More money, more investment, more growth. Simple. But what we got instead was a whole era of just shocking financial crises. That was definitely not part of the sales pitch. So what on earth went wrong? Well, we're going to get into it by breaking down a really fascinating study that asked this exact question.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to rewind the clock a bit, back to the 80s and 90s. This was when the floodgates really opened. You had countries all over the world basically tearing down their financial walls, letting foreign money pour in. The hope? To jumpstart their economies. But what they got, well, it wasn't a boom. It was a decade of pure shock.
Yeah, instead of a smooth ride to the top, it was more like one devastating crisis after another, just a cascade of them. It was like watching dominoes fall all across the globe. You had Mexico in '94, then the huge Asian financial crisis in '97, Russia went under in '98, then Brazil, and then, wow, the total collapse in Argentina in 2001. This wasn't just a string of bad luck. You see a list like that and you know, this is a pattern.
And okay, beyond all those dramatic headlines, the actual numbers tell an even crazier story. It's totally counterintuitive. You'd think with all this new money flooding in, growth would just take off, right? Nope. The exact opposite happened. While the richer countries kind of chugged along just fine, the growth rate in emerging and developing nations, it actually got cut in half. It fell to about half of what it was before all this globalization kicked off. Let that sink in. More global money was somehow leading to less growth. How is that even possible?
So, a lot of very smart people started scratching their heads. They realized they had to be missing something huge here. For years, the whole conversation was just about the quantity of money. How much is flowing in? How much is flowing out? But the researchers behind the study we're digging into today, they had a different idea. They suggested, hey, maybe we're asking the wrong question entirely. Maybe it's not about how much money a country gets, but about something else, something deeper.
And this is where we get this new way of looking at the problem. See, you can think about a financial system in two ways. On one side, you've got what they call financial deepening. That's just the raw amount of money and assets in the system. It's the whole more is better idea. But then, on the other side, you've got something called institutional development. And this is about the quality of the system. It's about the rules of the game, the laws, the regulations, the stuff that decides how all that money actually gets used.
Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of the matter, the rules. The whole argument in this study is that a healthy, stable financial system needs more than just a pile of cash. It needs a rock-solid foundation. And that foundation is built on two key things. First up, we have property rights. Now, I know that sounds kind of dry and technical, but it's actually super simple and incredibly important. It's just the basic fundamental belief that if you own something, your money, your assets, it's safe. It can't be stolen through fraud, and the government can't just come and take it away from you for no reason. Think about it. If you don't have that trust, why would you ever invest your money? You wouldn't. This is the absolute bedrock.
And the second golden rule? Market competition. This one's also crucial. It's the idea that money should flow to the best ideas, to the most efficient companies, because they're actually the best, not because they know someone powerful. It's all about having a level playing field, which stops a handful of insiders from just grabbing all the opportunities. When you have real competition, money gets put to its best use. And that, at the end of the day, is the whole point of a financial system.
Okay, here's a really great way to picture all this. Think of all that global capital as a huge, powerful river. It's got all this amazing potential, right? It could power a city. Now, your country's institutions, the property rights, the market competition, that's the foundation of your house right next to that river. If you take the time to build a really strong, solid foundation first, then you can safely channel that river's power. But what happens if you divert that massive river before your foundation is set? That torrent of water is just going to completely wash your house away.
So, that's the theory. A powerful one for sure. The rules of the game are what matter most. But what does the actual data say? Does it back this up? Well,
The study looked at 47 countries over a couple of decades and crunched the numbers to see exactly how globalization affected these two golden rules. And what they found when they looked at all the countries together was interesting. It looks like opening up to global money did help strengthen property rights. Okay, that's a good thing. Check in the plus column. But when they looked at market competition, not so much. The effect was way murkier. There was basically no clear sign that globalization was making markets more competitive. So it's kind of a split decision.
But, and this is a huge but, this is where the story takes a massive twist. The researchers did something really smart. They split the data. They said, okay, let's stop looking at everyone all at once. What happens if we zoom in and only look at the developing and emerging economies? You know, the very countries this whole thing was supposed to help the most.
And the results are? Honestly, they're stunning. As soon as they focused on just the developing countries, all those positive effects, they just vanished. Poof, gone. In fact, financial openness suddenly showed a negative link with property rights. It was actually making things worse. And competition? Still no positive effect? Nothing. For the very countries that needed good institutions the most, that big river of global capital was, just as the analogy suggested, washing the house away.
So what do we take away from this? Well, this leads to a really powerful, and I mean profoundly important, conclusion.
And here it is, the single biggest takeaway from this entire thing. For globalization to work, you have to get your financial rules in order first. See, globalization isn't some magic shortcut to getting rich. It's more like an amplifier. If you have a strong economy with good institutions, it'll amplify that and make things even better. But if you have a weak system, it will ruthlessly amplify all of those weaknesses. You have to build the rules before you can expect the riches.
So let's boil this all down. What does this mean, really? Well, for one, globalization is not a magic bullet that fixes everything. Not at all. Its benefits, if you get them, totally depend on the foundation that's already there. And that means, for developing countries, the most important job, the first job, is the slow, hard work of building things like fair courts, strong property rights, and truly competitive markets. If you open your doors to global money before you've done that work, it's not just that it won't help, it can be actively incredibly destructive.
And that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. If the rules of the game are what matter most, who should be the referee? If building these strong institutions is the key, who's in charge of setting those rules and making sure everyone plays fair? In this massive global game, who gets to blow the whistle? And that's a question that doesn't have any easy answers.